Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. We know evenings are precious time. We want you to be able to finish up your dinner, but we'll get started here in just a couple minutes. Thanks for being here tonight.
You have some music for us?
I do not have any music for you. I'm sorry.
All right.
Mr. Willie's trying to get in. I got to figure out where oh, there he is. We're going to move him over. Invite Mr. Willie on in. There he is. Good evening, Mr. Willie.
Hey guys.
Hello.
We are live, just giving folks a few minutes to get settled here before we start.
All right. I just got home, so I'm gonna turn my camera off and eat at the start of this.
I'm sure families will understand that. We've got folks in here, so I'm sure they'll understand that. I thought you were going to sing, Craig. I thought you were going to sing for us all.
You have any choir classes in here? Can you just open up everybody? Let's get everybody in here.
We could give everyone a voice tonight. That would be fun.
Caroling. Let's just do caroling.
That's a good evening. All right. Are you ready to get started, Craig?
Go.
Okay, so good evening. Thank you so much. My name is Jeanette Seamers. I'm one of the assistant principals at Monroe High School. I know you have gotten an invitation, Park Place Middle School families, Hidden River Middle School families, and MHS families. And tonight we are just thrilled to have Officer Craig Robertson with us. He is a Monroe police officer and also our Monroe School District School Resource Officer. He's going to be taking us through a two-part series. So we'll start tonight. We'll have about 30 to 40 minutes and then 20 minutes for Q&A. And then our next second part is next Tuesday night, the 8th, same time. And again, we'll follow the same pattern. We also have Mr. Willie here tonight. He just got home. He literally he's smiling there in between dinner bites. So he'll be here to help us answer some questions as well. So there is a Q&A option. So if you have questions, feel free to use that option as we go. We will be waiting until the end of tonight's time to be answering questions, but you can put your questions in there as we go tonight. So thanks for being here. And Craig is also the parent of 3 Monroe School District, Monroe High School Bearcat alumni, the most recent graduating this last June in the midst of COVID. And so I love having him here tonight. Thank you, Craig, for being here. I know your day has been busy on the force. You're actually working right now with the department, not so much with our students, but thank you for being here tonight with our families.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be on tonight. A little bit nervous. I'll be honest with you, just because everybody in the school district and all students, family, parents have been doing online stuff since March, and kind of new to me. So from the schools, when schools closed and went down, I went back to patrol. So I've been on patrol. So this whole being online and all that, you guys have gotten used to it and become pros. I am not so much. So bear with me as I'm a little bit clunky as I go through presentation on this. I am excited to be here though, and I appreciate the invite from Seamers and Mr. Willie. So I hope everybody out there, parents, kids, families, teachers, staff, I hope everybody's staying positive and making the best of it right now. I know at some point we'll get back into the schools. I will say this. I've had a perfect opportunity to be in the streets and out on patrol and come across a lot of students, a lot of kids. I've been able to talk to them, and I ask them, I always ask them, you know, do you wish you were back in the schools? Do you wish you were at the schools? How are you doing? I ask them what they're up to and all that. And the answer is always the same. It's always, I wish I was back at school. I wish I could see my kids. I wish I could be there. Well, we hear you. The staff hears you. We miss you too. And we want you around. But this is what I want you to remember, kids. When you do get back into school, and then I ask you how it's going, I don't want to hear that you don't want to be in school anymore, because you're telling me that you want to be in school. So I want that to always be your attitude from here on out. It's always nice when we have some, the absence of something in our life, we always miss it a lot. So always remember that when you get back into the schools. So anyways, we do miss you. We'll get on. A lot of you don't know me. I know the previous school resource officer was Officer Justin Springer. That's probably a familiar name. Everybody loves him. He had hard shoes to fill. I'm not even going to try to fill them. I'm just going to try to just do what I do best in life and just be me. Justin Springer is great. I talk to him often. He talks about you kids often. He misses every one of you. He is in a role that is best for him right now. He is a resource officer for our community. So basically an outreach for the less fortunate right now. And so he's such a kind soul. And so it's perfect for him. And so he misses you too. I just wanted to mention Justin Springer because he talks about you often. So a little bit about me, going to the next slide there. I know Seamers has control of this slideshow, so I'm going to have her go back and forth as much as I can, just to mess with her a little bit. But who am I? So I'm going to give you just the skinny of who I am real quick, or who am I, however I wrote that. So been 5 years, about 5 years, I've lived in the state of Washington. We moved here as a family from Montana. I know the first thing everybody says is, why would you move from Montana? And this is what I'm going to say. All you got to do is look out the window. And I say it every time to every single person. Look out the window. You, I was going to say, you Pacific Northwesterners, is that what you call yourselves? Anyways, you guys have something special out here. Everything's green. I know it's wet. I get it. It rains. But you have something special. It is beautiful here. You have a lot of water. You have lakes. You have oceans. You have restaurants. You have everything out here. It's amazing. And you don't have 10-month winters. And so, yes, Montana is great, but Pacific Northwest is beautiful. Absolutely delicious out here. So that's what I always say. I know everybody always says why. So there you go. Husband, I've been married 23 years to Lisa. She actually is a dispatcher for a local police department. So her and I are able to speak police code to each other fluently, which is nice. And so she's been a big support to me throughout my career, and a big choice for me, or support for me when I made the choice to apply for the school resource officer, knowing that we had just gotten through raising our kids and all that. So I'm grateful to have her in my life. 3 boys, like Seamers mentioned, I do have 3 boys. One's 22. I just got married recently to Faith. She's awesome, new to the family now. We have Lake. Lake graduated from Monroe, and a couple of years ago, he's now 2nd year UW, and excited about that. And just like everybody else out there, he is doing online schooling. So it's difficult for him, just like it's difficult for you, but making the best of it. And staying positive with everything that's been handed to him right now. Kai, some of you might know Kai. When I pull you kids over sometimes, you teenagers, every once in a while I get the whole, you're Kai's dad. And it always puts a smile on my face. I appreciate the fact that I had a couple kids in school, and I was able to see them and work with them. Kai, especially on his last year, graduated last year. So he is going to Cascadia College and doing his thing. So living his life. So I've been a police officer. I started back in 1999. I know most of you kids that are listening probably weren't even born at that time. That makes me old. Go ahead with the jokes. It's okay. But I've been in and out of police. I started in California, went to Montana, and then was a police officer there for many years, and then came out here to the state of Washington. So I've never really thought about becoming a school resource officer. It wasn't on my radar. My radar was more like motor cop because you get to wear those cool boots, you know, on the motorcycle, go fast and all that. That didn't quite happen. And then I thought about canine, and then I don't know where my dogs are, but if my dogs show up, I'll show you why I couldn't have a canine, because my dogs wouldn't probably allow another dog into our home, but I'll show you those as soon as they come around. You'll hear them probably. So there's that. And then school resource officer popped up when Officer Springer decided to leave the schools. And I will tell you, my wife and I really talked about it, and it has been, I know it's only been a couple months, and then I had one kid. I had a talk with a kid. Now, I'll never forget that. I have no idea who the kid even was. I wish I knew who you were, because I would call you out right now. But I had a discussion with a kid, and I said, if I could do something good as a SRO, what would it be? And he said, cancel school. And guess what? Like a month later, school was canceled. And so it wasn't me that did it, I promise. But I want to be back in the schools with you just as much as you do. So it was a big, great start and a big, great finish. And hold on. Here's one of them right here. So now you can see why I can't have a canine in the house. Long hair, I have two of those long-haired dachshunds. And so here I am. That's enough about me. Let's talk about why we're here today. So next slide. I know that this will get to cyberbullying, but I want to talk about kids being connected on the internet. Does every kid basically have the internet? Does everybody in life have the internet? Have we basically gotten to a point where internet's just there, right? I would have to say yes. We've gotten to a point where it's accessible. Whether we have it in our homes, whether we have it in schools or at the library, you can access it wherever you go. Whether you go to a store, you can find the Wi-Fi, you can find it. So how much time do you actually spend on the internet? Well, I would have to say, I don't know how many parents are on here or how many kids are on here, but I would have to say internet and social media, it's not going away. And I'm glad it's not. I'm glad it's here. And I look at it as like, let's just embrace it, because let's learn about it. Let's know about it. And the more we know about it, the safer we can stay as families and kids that have total access to it. So television, movies, how many of, so I know I wrote myself some notes, but I'll tell you, when I think of TV, I think of when I was a kid, and that's the old thing in me that I mean, Seamers, you'll probably remember, I think you and I are almost the same age here. And our TVs were like, we had like 4 or 5 channels back in the day. And I think now you can access anything in the world when it comes to the TVs that we have. So TVs now have access to just have their own apps and their own internet and all that, and they're smart TVs, and you don't even need a computer. You can just go through your TV and you can get everything. So if you can get the apps, you can get the apps that are chat worthy, that you can do all sorts of things on, and you can reach out to other people and they can reach out to you. So just keep that in mind as we're talking about stuff. Movies, you can get movies on there. I don't know what your guys' favorite movie is. I was just talking about it the other day with somebody else. Captain Fantastic is my favorite movie. So ask your parents if you can watch it if you're kids. If they say no, don't. But anyways, it's filmed here locally and has one of my favorite actors in it. So moving on, cell phones and computers. Who has a cell phone? I see I'm asking questions and no one's going to answer me. Oh, thank you. Seamers has a cell phone. I'm glad. I'm sure Principal Willie has a cell phone, but those are the only 2 people I can see. So I love interacting when I'm actually talking to people, and this is difficult. Like I said, this is difficult for me to have to do this, but cell phones, everybody has them. Number 1 question that parents ask me about cell phones are, and I was only in there a couple months and I get this question all the time, is when do I give my kid a cell phone? And my answer is this: 2 ways. To the kid, to the child, to the teenager, when do you think you should get a cell phone? And what have you done to prove yourself trustworthy to get that cell phone? Okay, so that's my question for you kids, is what have you done to prove that you're going to be mature with that cell phone? You're going to make the right decisions. You're going to make good decisions. You're going to not hide things or download things that shouldn't be on your phone. And you're going to give your parents basically full access to your phone. Parents, when can you trust your kid to get that cell phone? When you know your kids best. I don't know everybody. I know a lot of you in the community. I know my kids, and I knew when it was time, and I knew when I could talk to my kids in a way that I could trust what they would do on their phones. And so basically that's one of the biggest things. I know it's a hard decision. Is it 12 that we give them phones? Is it 13, 14, 15? I don't know, but it's between you and your parents. If I'm talking to the kids. So computers are everywhere now. We have, I'm on a Surface is what I'm actually coming to you from. Desktops, we got all sorts of access to computers now. You're doing school from computers and everything. So gaming devices, I wrote my list of my gaming devices. Ataris, how many people have Atari? Why are you laughing at me?
Frogger was the best game.
Which one, Frogger?
Frogger.
I like Dig Dug, if you remember Dig Dug. So back in my day, I'll do it one more time. I'll probably do it a couple times, so I'm not going to apologize. Dig Dug, Intellivision, Atari, those were all cool devices for us. Nintendo, Wii, what happened to those? Are those still around? I mean, I like them. PlayStation, Xbox are the new ones that are out that just came out that everybody's talking about and all that. So I'll be honest with you. Those are just things that connect us to the world out there. And I don't care if you are a kid that doesn't have those consoles. Okay. I had a few games, but I wasn't a gamer, and it was okay to not be a gamer. And I became successful, and I was just fine in life without being a gamer. So I didn't have all the consoles. I didn't grow up in a family where we were able to get a lot of the gaming devices and all that. So it's okay to not have them, but you that do have them, how much time do you spend on them? And that's kind of where we're going with this today. So let's go on to the next. A couple videos for you guys to watch. So I'll just be quiet so you can hear it.
My name is Alejandra, and I'm 13. And like on a daily basis, I go on my phone like in the morning, and I'll check my Instagram, Snapchat, Kick, Twitter, Tumblr, Vine, go to school, and I come back, and I'll go on Netflix, and I'll go in my room, and I'll listen to like Pandora, Spotify, I'll play my Xbox, like Grand Theft Auto, and Call of Duty, and that's about it. If I would add up all the time that I use, I think I would spend about 7 to 8 hours every day. When I'm on social media, I feel like I know what's going on. You know, you do feel a little connected, and you know, like what people are up to. Like, you know, I'll post pictures or videos. I'll like comment on stuff. I don't think I'm addicted to it, my phone. I think it's kind of a leech though, because you always have to be on it. And you know, when I hear buzz, I'm like, oh, I have friends.
I'm Sasha, I'm 16 years old. Currently I have the Xbox 360, MacBook Pro laptop, the iPad, the old Xbox, a Samsung Galaxy smartphone, and the PlayStation 4. I like to play a lot of different video games on the console on my PS4 when I get home, and I just, veg out sometimes and play. I have, first-person shooter like Call of Duty or Battlefield, and we also have a baseball game that I've been playing. I absolutely think that there is an addictive quality to video games. Sometimes I'll just keep going if I really want to level up in a video game.
Usually when I do my homework, when I get home, I'll either come in my room, listen to music, or I'll go to the living room and watch TV while I do my homework. If I'm reading something and I get distracted from TV, or I'll pause it or I'll turn off the music and I'll go through the problem again or whatever I'm working on, because I guess I was just a little distracted.
If I'm doing my homework on my laptop, I might be also having conversations with my friends or, intermittently checking my phone. Sometimes if I just get too bored of my homework, I might play Candy Crush or something. When I was younger, I could go much longer without using media, but when I'm in an environment that has a lot of media and a all of my friends are on media, then I find it hard to kind of resist.
Something that Toby will never understand.
Hey, Officer Robertson, you need to unmute yourself.
I appreciate that. So I said everything I needed to say just in the last few seconds there. So no, I'm just kidding. So does that video make sense to you guys? It does. We are at a point where we are, I'm talking to adults too. These aren't just kids. We're addicted to electronics, and we rely on them. We use them. I have them in my police car. I have a laptop in my police car that tells me where to go. It shows me where my police car is at all times. It shows me where the calls are. It shows me where my partners are. So we're reliant on electronics, which isn't a bad thing. Like I said at the beginning, it's good to embrace it. But let's go into what that allows when it comes to criminal activity with the internet. So I think, did we skip one, or is that one the next one there? Yep, that's fine. We'll jump onto that one. So what is a bully? Well, a bully, can everybody think of who a bully is? I bet you everybody knows a bully, right? Yep. I don't want you to say it. I just want you to think about it. Everybody can kind of think about somebody that they know in their life, might not be friends with, might be friends with, might be a family member, but they're just not nice, and they have bullyish behaviors. I like to put this contrast of both of it. Traditional bully, you have traditional bully is face-to-face, somebody being able to, my Alexa just turned on, it's playing music. Can you guys hear that? Perfect. Okay, good. Then we'll keep going. See, that's what happens when you do live things like this. This is the stuff I'm not used to. But anyways, so bullying, back in the day, we were able to do face-to-face fights and stuff like that. Fortunately, we don't have a lot. I haven't heard of any, and maybe they do have some in the schools and all that. But a lot of times people utilize cyber bullying now rather than face-to-face. So one's not better than the other. They're both horrible. But still, that's the contrast of one from the other. Can find a safe space or to escape. You're able to, traditional bullying, you can get away from the person. You can leave. You can avoid them. The cyberbullying, you have no safe place. They're going to get you, they're going to be able to reach out to you from every angle. If you have them on Snapchat, you can block them. If they want to find you again, they'll find you on Facebook or any other app or anything like that. So you can't really hide. Bullies can be identified when it comes to traditional bullying. We know who they are. They're usually local. They're usually right here. But on the online, on anonymous, bullies can be anonymous on cyberbullying. They can be wherever they want to be, and they could be worldwide and all that. So traditional bullying, we're limited to onlookers. We're limited to people that are there, people that see it, people that observe it, people that hear about it. But cyberbullying, we're shared by an entire audience, and it can go viral just like that, very quick, and be all over the world. I don't know if you know this about me, but a couple of years ago, I made a video here in the community, and it went viral. It's on our, if you want to look it up, it's on the Monroe Facebook page. It's got millions of views, but there are quite a few people on there that made quite a few opinionated comments on there. And so you just stay away from them and you just avoid it. So we'll talk about a few things that you can do to avoid the bullies here in just a bit when we go to the next one. All right, so there's that slide. In total, 95% of teens are connected to the internet. I think it's higher than that. I mean, I know it's only an error of 5%, but I think it's everybody can have access to the internet. And it's not just the ones that have phones, it's the ones that have the iPods or any other sort of communication device. 85% are social media users. I think it might be higher than that. I pulled these numbers from a 2020 Pew Research Center that does a lot of research numbers. So I would say maybe they might be a bit higher, but this just tells us where we're at. Internet's out there. The accessibility to touch worldwide is out there. Let's go to the next. I fully believe the internet is good, though. It also allows, once again, let's go back to my, as a kid, my parents didn't have access to me. When they said, Craig, be home at a certain time, it was generally when the streetlights came on, is when I had to be home. Now I get to say, Kai, be home at, he's 18 now. I don't tell him really when to come home, but when they're teenagers and they're kids, you're able to access them when they have a phone or they have a way to do that. So internet has a lot of pluses and perks to it. So where are people cyberbullied? And does everybody know what cyberbullied is? I mean, I know we talked about it in that other slide, but cyberbullied is just sticking strictly to internet and doing it through there. And so sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think every social media app or platform is an accurate account of a person. I think people hide behind fake apps or hide behind fake social media sites so that they can do this kind of stuff and bully. So where are they bullied? Here's just a chart, but Twitter, I think a lot of us have Twitter. YouTube is something that kids spend a lot of time on. WhatsApp, messenger app, Snapchat, I think should be like 100. I think it should be way up there, truthfully. Facebook is kind of a dying breed right now, but us adults use it quite a bit, I think, for the most part. And Instagram's an easy one. So this is just a good chart to kind of show you that it is out there and people can be cyberbullied on all levels and throughout the entire internet. Let's go to the next one. So what kind of issues come from cyberbullying? Is this something, so remember I asked you about if you knew a bully. So how about, do you know, let's call him a victim. Do you know a victim of cyberbullying? Do you know somebody that has actually been bullied or cyberbullied? We all do, I think. I've seen it. I've seen them on websites. I've seen them where people make comments that just aren't nice. To me, that's cyberbullying. When you're saying things that are not kind or personal about that person, it is not nice at all. And so what does that cause? We don't know the effects that it's going to cause the other person, but let's go over just a couple of stats of what it does to people. 9% began abusing alcohol and or drugs. Can that happen even as a kid? Alcohol and or drugs? You better believe it can. I've seen it. I've been in law enforcement long enough to be in enough families and homes where that does happen, unfortunately. 14% developed an eating disorder. And why do you think that is? You know, maybe somebody was made fun of and the person making fun of them, who I believe might be insecure themselves, caused the victim to be insecure. So they developed an eating disorder. 20% started skipping class. How many kids do we know skip class all the time? Quite a few. So stopped using social media altogether. All of a sudden they're just gone. Engaged in self-harm. Does that happen? It does. 26% deleted their social media altogether, just ghosted out. Just all of a sudden they're gone. Is that normal or abnormal behavior for that person? Had suicidal thoughts. That's a scary one. That's a real thing. I don't know if anybody that's listening in here has or knows anybody that has committed suicide, but I do. And I know that that's a real thing. And so 37% developed depression. That's a real cause of being bullied or cyberbullied. Developed social anxiety, where you're afraid to actually speak your mind, or you're afraid to give your opinion because you're worried about what other people might say or think about you. And so that's the biggest one, is 41% is when you say something, you give your opinion, and somebody beats you down over their message on your post. It's going to make you really think twice about posting something like that again, won't it? It does, unfortunately. So moving on to the next one. So 5 tips to stop cyberbullying. So let's go over those. 1, what time are we at? 30. So we got a couple minutes here. So don't respond or retaliate. That's a big one. They want you to. Most bullies just want you to come and just get into this altercation online, back and forth. Bullies want to argue. That's what they do best. So you might say something that you regret. And so just stay away from it. And it just makes the process even longer. You know, it just prolongs the interaction between you and them. So don't respond to them. Don't retaliate. Just let it go. Next. Block the bully. Block the email. So usernames, social media accounts, or the bully, we all know how to do that. You have the ability on most social media apps out there that you can block that person or that user ID. You can get rid of them. And here's the thing. When you block them, don't unblock them. Don't bring them back into your life and say, okay, let's give you another chance, unless you actually know them and you become friends with them and you guys have worked it out. But don't unblock them just to see if they're still talking about you. Let it go and just stay away from them. You can report accounts, which are great too, to the website or the web page. Most social media accounts allow you to report any illegal or unwanted behavior that's on those websites. So do utilize those reporting.
And actually, Officer Robinson, that's the one that we talk a lot with our students about, because when we have anonymous bullying, harassment, intimidation happening, we will try our best to figure out who the owner of an account is. But a lot of times, I can think of an example last year where we had an account that was live that was causing a lot of issues as a whole school, and we could not figure out who the owner of that account was. We couldn't figure out who posted it. The kids actually kept it really, really quiet. And so the best actual option for our students in that situation and families is to make sure they're reporting to Instagram, Snapchat, whoever it is, what's happening on that account. Get screenshots if you can get them, take screen videos, and reporting that. And we've had a lot of success even this year around students going that route. So I would say if any advice I was going to give from a school perspective, it would be making sure you take action as well and reporting them.
Very good point, Seamers, is that you have the ability to just report it to the website. If we can't figure out who they are, and most times we can't, like I said at the beginning, it might be a fake account and that they set up just to be a bully. And in that case, just report them, and generally they'll get blocked or deleted from that webpage. All right, next. Save the evidence. That's a big one. So screenshots and document each conversation. So just remember what was said. If you can screenshot it and save it into your photos, that'd be perfect. Make a note of the times and circumstances and retain the information. One of the first things I ask when I respond to a home where somebody has concerns over something that happened on the internet is, can you show me? And a lot of times they don't retain it or they don't have it. So if you have the ability to do it, and you might not have it because it might disappear, but if you do have the ability to save it, retain it, grab it, whatever it is, just do that so that we can have that as evidence. Because if this does go into a criminal level of harassment, and we'll talk about crimes next week and the crimes that are attached to all of this, but if it does get to that level, then we're going to want some sort of evidence from that. All right, next one. All right, report it. So there's a little police officer right there with a mask on. I made sure and got the good one out in the community there. Take screenshots and document times of each conversation, like we talked about on the last slide. Keep your emails, text, comments, etc. that could serve as evidence of the cyberbullying. Report the issues to the website, like we talked about. Facebook, YouTube, both have places where you can report it. I'm going to have a cat here in our face here in just a second. So it's like a farm going on around here. Call 911 to report the bullying. So used to be, I'm going to go back in the day again. Used to be back in the day, we wouldn't call 911 unless it was an actual emergency. Well, guess what? That's how you get a hold of the police officers now, is you call 911. And if you feel like it's to a level where it needs to be reported and police need to be involved, parents, kids, call 911 and call us and let us come out there and talk to you. If anything, we'd like to just come out and talk about the situation.
And you're going to talk more next week about what would constitute calling 911 in a bullying situation, right?
Absolutely.
Like what kinds of things parents and students will look for that would warrant them to reach out to law enforcement to support. Perfect.
Absolutely. So tell a friend or trusted adult, talk to a school teacher, leaders. School staff is great. That's what they're there for. They're with you almost most of the day when we're in school. And so feel like you can go to them and trust them. Discuss with school security. We've got a great security team at Monroe High School specifically. Well, they go around the whole school district, and Greg leads that. And they do a phenomenal job at just being involved. And when I first came over to the schools, what was really neat to me is that I noticed that they knew every kid's name. And I was a little bit jealous that they already had this, where the kids were going by fist bumping. I know we're going to adjust that probably when we get back into schools and stuff like that, whatever. But it was just great to see, Greg, Miss Debbie, she knew everybody's name. It was awesome. Carlos, JT, they were great and very approachable. I felt very comfortable with them. So just know that they're there if you ever need them. So talk to friends and parents. We all have friends. We all have parents that are out there that you can confide in. I don't know any parent that would turn a kid away that needed to talk about something serious like this. And so please feel like you can do that. You are not alone. And something to always remember, you're not the only person being bullied. There's quite a bit of it out there, unfortunately. And so you're not alone in this. So please do reach out. Okay, how can you tell if you're that friend or you're that person? How can you tell if somebody's being cyberbullied? What kind of signs do they have? They might become shy and withdrawn, right? Moody, agitated, anxious, or stressed out. Act more aggressively towards other. Protest more about going to school. Could that be some of you guys? Okay. Get into trouble at school. Skipping school. Experience a dip in academic performance. Stops using the computer or other devices that connect to the internet. The ghosting part where they just, all of a sudden they're just gone. They change eating and sleeping habits. They attempt self-harm and threaten suicide. Suddenly begin hanging out with a new group of friends. So are those all things that could show us that somebody's changing or something's happening in their life? And what can we do as a friend that can actually just inquire a little bit more on what's happening? And maybe they are just finding new friends and all that. But if any of these things apply, be that friend, show up for them, and be present in their life and try to find out if they are being bullied. So we're going to watch one more video. And then if you have any more questions, please put your questions in there, because right after this, we're going to go into the question part. So if you have any, we'll get to those as soon as this is done. So I'm going to put myself on mute.
Grammarly
Of
does
course.
more than catch errors.
lights will guide you home and ignite your bones, and I will try to fix you.
I appreciate videos like that because it really just reminds me about being nice or being kind. We have such a society right now where a lot of people question a lot of things, and we're in kind of a little bit of turmoil wherever you fall on each side of the fence. But right now is the time to be kind to each other. And so I really hope that you take a video like that and you really look at it and just go, there are people out there that just need some nice words. So always remember that. So jump into the next slide. Just to talk about next week. Next week, we will go over specific applications, social media reviews, and concerns. So I have a bunch of listed apps. So parents, please come back if you're in the room now. Please come back. We'll talk about these applications that I've come across. A lot of hidden ones that kids are able to hide on your phone. Kids, if you have them on your phone, get them off your phone. And examples of cyberbullying within social media. I'll show some examples that I have and have come across, and specific laws concerning bullying, harassing, and stalking behaviors that fall under our RCWs that can be enforced by law. So do we have any questions in there, Seamers? No questions?
Not yet, no. So folks, you're welcome to drop a question in the Q&A at the bottom at this point. Next week, we'll also talk a little bit about what this looks like in a school setting. And so I'm looking at Mr. Willie. He doesn't realize it because we're on camera right now, but I would say we probably deal with examples or situations of online, just rude, inappropriate behaviors that border, and some are harassment, intimidation, bullying online, but a lot of inappropriate behaviors that kind of skirt that line at least once, twice a week that we're working through things to just really, and some extremely more severe where we do, when we encounter something that we think could potentially be a crime, all those are handed off to Officer Robertson and the Monroe Police Department. And so we see it a lot. We see it a lot in our schools. And so I'm grateful that you're here to talk to us tonight, Officer Robertson. And again, if you've got questions, go ahead and drop those down in the Q&A, and we may not have any questions. And that's okay too.
Sure. But they can also submit them to you throughout the week, and we can talk about them next week when we come back on. So if anybody wants to reach out to myself or Seamers or Principal Willie, you can reach out to them and send us a comment or question or something you'd like to talk about or discuss in relation to all of this. We'd love to do that. So.
And as you're thinking through questions, also know the Monroe School District uses a program called Safe Schools, where you can also submit anonymous reports. So we'll also talk next week a little bit about the levels of reporting and what our response is depending on how you report something. So for example, we have confidential reporting, anonymous reporting, and then just open reporting. And so each of those different layers of reporting behaviors from other students have a different response level from us depending on what the situation is. Mr. Willie, you have some words?
No, just want to thank Officer Robertson for being here and helping work us through this. It's definitely an area for growth, I think, for all of us, especially students, as we learn how to use these different platforms appropriately. So thank you for taking the time.
I see the question in there.
There it is. Is Officer Robertson available only to high school, or does he visit the middle school too? Why don't you answer that one, Officer Robertson?
I would absolutely love to come to the middle school. So yes, I would like to come out there. I would love to be a part of it. Once school is back in session, I would love to get around. It was my goal and intent to do that throughout the school season. So once we're back in, we will do that. If we want to do a webinar like this or whatever, is that what it's called, webinar? Zoom meeting, whatever it is. We could definitely do this again on whatever topic is appropriate for middle schools. So absolutely.
Yeah, and you also do our SRO historically, while they're housed mostly at Monroe High School, I know there have been times where they've been called to the middle schools. You also do personal safety training courses at the middle schools when we're in the building in session. Let's see. Once you report someone to the app, do they keep a log and do anything further to monitor the reported user or bully? So that's a question actually for Mr. Willie and I. So in thinking through safe schools and the way that it works, what happens is we actually have a legal timeline when a report is made. And so we have a certain number of days, I think it's 3, thinking off the top of my head, that we have to notify families. 2 days to notify families is the first deadline, actually, that, hey, we've received a report that a possible harassment, intimidation, or bullying is happening. We then have a certain number of days to investigate that report, 5 days. And then once we're done investigating, we have another set of days to respond back to each family to let them know what our findings were, if it indeed was harassment, intimidation, and bullying, or if it was just rude, inappropriate behavior. And then taking action and putting a plan in place. And so do we log it? These stay, so we do discipline reporting in Skyward. And so when there are incidents of harassment, intimidation, and bullying, that's logged in a student's Skyward discipline situation. And then we also have our safe schools where it keeps it up. So whenever we add a new, they're called tickets. So whenever a ticket gets added to safe schools, those are by name. And so we have student names there so we can do searches there to see if there's been previous behavior. What I will say, at least at MHS and the high school level, we have a pretty good idea when we get a report. Our middle schools and elementary schools do a great job using Skyward. And so we can go in there and look and see, is this a pattern of behavior? Is this repeated behavior? Is this something brand new that's never been reported? So there's a good monitoring system to continue monitoring that bully or what's been done. Okay, let's see.
Just to go off of that question too, just real quick. I think it asked, that's a longer question. So just back to that one, do the websites retain the information? Let me answer that real quick. So if it goes to a criminal matter and we actually need that information and it's gone and we can't find it, we can go through a search warrant with the police department and we'll get a judge to sign a search warrant that we will send to whatever website that was that has every single keystroke that's happened from that app or from that user. And we will get all of that information. So it's all discoverable. We can get it. So that's why I talk to kids quite a bit about be careful what you put in or on or out there. Everything's discoverable at some point. So you might have deleted it, you might have gotten rid of it, but we have the tools and the ability to get it if we need it.
Okay, next one that came in. This is actually not a question, but a scenario, and maybe one of the 3 of us have something to offer more. But this parent is sharing that they actually called the cops on a bully a couple weeks ago. It wasn't considered a crime, so there wasn't much the officer could do. That parent ended up calling the school administrator, perfect choice, and worked through it with the other parent and family. Yes, next week, I think it's important, Officer Robertson, that we really get a clear understanding of when do you call the cops. We have our threshold when we start to involve police officers. Really, it's around hate crime. My understanding and all my experiences around criminal harassment have been pretty different, but sounds like this family took all the right steps, unfriending, blocking, and all of that, and they're just happy that we're here tonight. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Any other questions out there? We've got a few minutes left.
That's a good talking point for next week. And so we'll put some emphasis on when, how, and where, because it sounds like you're, as a parent, doing everything that you should be or could be doing to make your kids safe. So I appreciate you doing all that.
And I think monitoring, I know there's a lot of, I feel like whenever I talk to families about social media issues, we talk about the fake accounts that students have, and the family's like, nope, I belong to their account. I'm on their Twitter, or I'm on their, kids don't use Twitter very much anymore, but I'm on their Snapchat or I'm on their Instagram and I see that. And actually I would say, and I don't know if you have a percentage, maybe you can get it next week. I would say at least probably anywhere between 40 to 50%, and I would think that's low, have actually their Instagram account that you get to be on as a parent. And then they have a separate Instagram or TikTok or Tumblr or whatever kind of account it is that you really don't have any idea about. They hide it. The other way that they'll access it is they don't actually have the app on their phone, and they'll access it through an internet browser. So that's a really, really important conversation to have with your kids too, is that students will actually, instead of, like in our family, I'll use mine as an example. I have a high schooler myself. The rule is no social media accounts. And so we said, if you go the back way, like I'm smart enough, I'm a high school administrator. If you go around the back way and access this through the internet, there's going to be some big consequences. And unfortunately, my child has learned the hard way because they went that route and I knew how to find it. So that's another way that students will access things. Children will access things to make sure parents don't see it.
There are specific hidden apps too that we'll talk about next week that parents don't know. I didn't even know until I started doing the inquiries and finding all this out. And I've taught this class a couple times to other community members and all that. And so it always enlightens parents to know that that we as a parent community can actually get together and talk about the actual apps that kids are hiding and stuff like that. So kids, if you're not doing the right thing, that was the beginning thing. Remember when I asked about when do kids get phones? When they can be trusted with phones. And so do the right thing, make right choices. There should be nothing that could be hidden or should be hidden from your parents.
Are you going to talk next week about some of the parental control apps at all?
I do touch on that.
Okay.
I do have a portion of that, absolutely. But it goes into certain companies and certain programs that they can get. So without giving them a commercial and all that, I can definitely mention a couple of them that have been successful that I've seen.
Any other questions out there? I know they've had some good wait time. And again, you can submit them during the week. Officer Robertson will be back here next Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Would love to have you join us. Would love for you to share with family and friends that other families, if you think this would be of interest to them. Let us know how we can find our kids the back way next week. Oh, yeah. So yeah, I absolutely, a question is around what I was sharing. Yeah. So you want to be able to search their history. I can actually tell you that now since there's not questions coming in. So if you open up their internet browser on their phone and you push the back arrow and hold it down, the history will pop up and it'll show you all the sites that they've accessed. And so you can do that on computers too. And so then you can see, right? And so that's how we found out is that one of my children had an Instagram account. And so that was a no at the time. So that's the one way you can go, quote, the back way. I don't know how to find a fake Insta. Oftentimes, again, they've got a really different name or they've set those up. I don't know. Do you have ideas about that one, Officer Robertson? I just know if they're using their browser, like their internet browser, to find it.
Just being involved with who their friends are. If you're friends with them on their personal account, the Kai Robertson at snowboarder77 at imcool.com or whatever he's got, if you're friends with that, then you're able to actually look at what the other people are. So, if you really have concerns, you can spend some good amount of time going through all of their friends and looking who might not be real and who might be fake. So I've done it before. I've gotten to a point where my kids have made some good choices in the last several years. And so I've been able to, kind of ease off of that a bit and do spot checks as they're needed. So.
Mr. Willie, anything you want to add here before we wrap up for the evening?
Oh, I think you guys covered it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here, Officer Robertson. Thank you again. We will see you next week. And we hope you all have a great evening. Take care.
Thanks for having me. See you guys.
Bye.